Ball Players Evolution, welcome back. You're not losing because the other team is better than you. You're losing because you're not doing your job. That's the topic for today. And I want you to really think about that. Right? A lot of this episode is going to have to deal with excuses as well and how it relates to this topic. But I'm here to tell you, you are not losing most games because the other team is better than you. You're losing because you're not doing your job. The other team being better than you, that's an opinion. You not doing your job is a fact. Here's a couple examples. Right? You're going into a tournament or you're playing a regular season game and let's just say the team has maybe more wins than you. Right? Let's just say that team is 7-5 and you're 5-5 or whatever. Or let's say you're going into a tournament and you're the number 6 seed and you're playing the number 3 seed, right? You're the quote-unquote underdog just because of that, right? I think that we can use that as fuel to be positive, right? That the feeling of playing with nothing to lose, like you're a dangerous team if you're playing with nothing to lose. We see that in sports all the time. But the problem is, more times than not, especially with youth sports, high school sports, I see teams using this, as a negative. They go into a game, and if the other team has more wins than them, they feel intimidated that they're not going to win the game. They don't use that as fuel. And so if you're in that situation, you've got to use it as fuel. You've got to go in there with a little bit of an edge, thinking that you have nothing to lose. Because again, a team with nothing to lose, or at least the attitude and perspective that they have nothing to lose, is dangerous. It's dangerous. That's when you see the underdogs winning. But let's take it back. You need to understand this. You're not losing the game because the other team is better than you. That's an opinion. You're losing the game because you're not doing your job. If you were to have your game filmed and you were to hand that film to somebody and not told them a thing, they didn't know which team was which, they don't know where they're from, they don't know their record, they don't know the players, they know nothing, and they just watch the footage of the film, right? That is what we're talking about. The facts that are actually happening, the events that are actually happening on the field, and this is any sport. Let's just use baseball or softball as an example, right? If this team is committing 7 errors in the game and the other team only has 2 errors, that's not doing your job. That's beating yourself. And that's an excuse if you think the other team is better than you. Using that excuse that the other team is better than you is not, it's just inexcusable. And so if you're going to use the excuse that the other team is better than you, it does not apply, especially in those situations. And when I say those situations, I'm talking about 95% of the time or more. It's the events that are happening on the field, right? Which team had more hits? Which team had more errors? Which team had more stolen bases? Which team had more mistakes? Base running mistakes, fielding mistakes, hitting mistakes, mental mistakes, maybe a lack in effort, right? And so, it's no secret that the team with the least amount of mistakes usually ends up winning, right? And those have to do with doing your job. It does not have to do with the expectations before the game of who's better or not. It does not have to do with who's the underdog. It does not have to do with all of these predictions, guesses before the game. Because that's all they are, right? That is all they are. And just ask Vegas. They'll be the first ones to tell you, right? Because they're the ones that they're in the business of that. They're in the business of predicting, right? And so I don't work for Vegas, but man, I would assume they get smacked when the underdog wins, especially in big events. And it all depends on who's putting their money where, and that's for another story, another topic. But this theory of who's the underdog, who's the better team, is an opinion. You need to get that through your head. And you've got to be able to use this to your advantage, especially when you're going up against a team that you feel intimidated by, okay? Because it all comes down to doing your job or not. Okay, what does this lead to for you as a player individually, right? If we have the perspective and if we have the mindset that it's okay to lose just because the other team was better than us or more talented than us. It is handicapping your growth as a player. It absolutely is. And so you cannot go into this game having any feeling whatsoever that that team is better than you. You can respect the fact that they have a heck of a lot of talent on the field, and that should really, what it should do is it should increase your intensity and your effort and your focus in the game to try to get you to rise to the level of the competition more than anything. But it is all about what's happening on the field and if you're doing your job or not. It is not about this stuff in our head that is like theory. That's all it is. It is theory. Okay, so do not let it handicap yourself as a player. Do not let it handicap your growth as a player. Right? Reps are reps. If you're playing in a 7-inning game and you start changing the way you play or giving up halfway through the game in the 3rd or 4th inning because your team's losing by 10 runs, 12 runs, you're limiting your growth as a player, right? And so you've got to use every rep that you get equally. And if you do that, your growth will accelerate. I promise you that. If you do that, your growth will accelerate. And so that's always got to be a mindset too. How are you going to grow as a player, and how's the team going to grow all together? And each experience is an opportunity for growth, winning or losing. Because when you lose, you learn from the experiences. And so if you can extract out the reasons as to why you failed or why your team failed, you should be better prepared for the next one if you're actually using the information that you got in it. And there's also lessons to learn when you're winning. There's also a lot to learn about what you can do that's working and how to repeat it. And so winning builds confidence, losing builds toughness. How are you going to use that to propel yourself as a player? How is your team going to use that to grow and evolve as a team? And so you've got to be able to extract something from every experience. There is something to extract from every experience. And if you can believe that, and not only believe that, acknowledge that, start applying that, again, you're going to 3x, 4x your growth as a player and as a team. There's a really good quote from Eric Thomas, one of the most powerful motivational speakers. I've listened to a lot of his stuff, listened to him for years. And his quote is, "It's okay to lose, but that doesn't mean you have to be comfortable with it." Okay, it's okay to lose, but it doesn't mean you have to be comfortable with losing when it happens. And I think that's a really good one because we're all going to lose. And so you have to be able to live with it. Because if you can't handle losing, you're not going to last very long in this game or in any sport. Okay, so it's about being able to handle it, but not only handle it, learn from it. But he also talks about not being comfortable with it. And so there's like a fine line there where you've got to be able to use your failures as fuel in a way as well to propel yourself for the next one. It's got to motivate you a little bit to get your butt kicked. It's got to motivate you to want to be better for the next time. You know, a lot of the time, those wake-up calls are necessary when we lose. And a lot of the time, we're losing because of what we talked about at the beginning of this episode. You're not doing your job, and that can be a wake-up call as well. So try to apply that, right? It's okay to lose. You can live with it, but you're not going to be comfortable with it. You're not going to do that over and over again. And because you're not comfortable with it, you're going to make a change. You're going to adjust. You're going to bounce back. Because if you're comfortable with losing, what's going to make you change or do anything differently for the next time? Right? What's stopping you from losing again? And so you should be uncomfortable with losing, but you also should be able to handle it. And so think about that. Apply that. That's much easier said than done, but apply it. It's going to really help you in the long term. It's going to really help you grow and evolve as a player and as a person outside of sports, because that is something you can take with you and apply to the rest of your things in your life. When you're done playing in your career, as a father, as a mother, as a friend, as a leader, so many different areas. So I'll wrap it up with that for this one, guys. You're not losing because the other team is better than you. You're losing because you're not doing your job. Right? And so just be accountable for that, and it's going to really, really help your growth as a player.